U.S. President Andrew Shepard is a widower, a Democrat, a man with strong political clout and high approval ratings who is on the cusp of his re-election campaign. Along with him, his closest associate and Chief of Staff McInerney runs the White House. The president is raising his daughter Lucy, and his cousin Judith is handling the social duties of First Lady. Shepard's team seeks to bring the president's approval rating to the strategically important 63% mark before he addresses Congress and begins the race for re-election. The main tool chosen for this is a moderate anti-crime bill that should please both parties. However, conservatives consider it too soft and liberals too compromising. Nevertheless, passage of the bill almost guarantees Shepard's election victory. In parallel, Sydney Ellen Wade appears in the Capitol as an active, confident, and determined woman. Her goal is to achieve a 20% reduction in carbon dioxide emissions across the country, promoting the relevant bill. An unusual situation soon arises. Judith, the substitute First Lady, falls ill right before the French president's visit. Shepard has an important state dinner to attend and urgently needs a companion. That's when he remembers Sydney Wade. Instead of having his aides handle things formally, he calls her personally. She thinks it's a prank at first, but when she realizes the president himself is calling her, she can't refuse. Shepard invites her to accompany him to a formal dinner. At the dinner, Sydney is confident, not embarrassed by the diplomats or the press. She makes a vivid impression, skillfully communicates with representatives of other countries, dances with the president. After the evening, Shepard sends her a bouquet of flowers and a note. She thanks him in return, but keeps her distance. Then he calls again now to invite her to an informal meeting. He gives her a tour of the White House at night. This evening lays the foundation of their relationship. Despite his status, he shows her his simpler side, and she's not afraid to be herself, which endears him to her. Shepard makes her an offer if she can secure the votes for her environmental bill, he will personally secure the rest. This agreement becomes a symbol of trust and growing sympathy. Wade begins to actively work on it, meeting with congressmen, preparing arguments, and convincing allies. Meanwhile, Shepard and Sydney spend more and more time together. But their romance cannot remain out of the public eye. The press notices Sydney's frequent visits to the White House. Rumors start, photos appear, and the first critical articles appear. Shepard's opponent, Republican candidate Senator Bob Rumson, launches a campaign against him, accusing him of losing family values, that the president uses the White House as a place for personal visits. Tensions begin to mount within the president's team. Against this backdrop, Wade faces difficulties in advancing his project. Several key congressmen, including representatives from Michigan, are expressing doubts. One of them says bluntly if the White House insists on Sydney's law, they will refuse to support the president's anti-crime bill. Thus, the two laws become politically incompatible. Wade relays this information to Shepard. This puts the president in a quandary: either he keeps his word and supports her environmental initiative, risking losing the crime bill and possibly re-election, or he drops her law for political success. The president's team suggests that the environmental law be taken off the table, thus clearing the way for the crime bill to pass. Shepard agrees. Sydney learns that her organization is firing her because of failed negotiations and suspicions that she used her relationship with the president for influence. She comes to the White House to say goodbye. She says she's going to work in Connecticut. Shepard tries to justify his choice. He says that for the sake of his position, he is obliged to make difficult decisions. Sydney replies that his law doesn't solve the crime problem, and the compromises are too great. They part ways, and it becomes a blow to both of them. On the eve of his address to the nation, Shepard goes to the press unannounced. He sharply denounces the Republican candidate Rumson, saying that he is running a dirty campaign and spreading lies about Sydney. He publicly admits he is in love with her and announces a radical change of heart. Shepard withdraws the compromise crime law and proposes instead a tough version with real gun control measures. Moreover, he decides to submit to Congress Sydney's environmental law exactly the version she proposed, with a 20% reduction in emissions. His announcement causes a shock, but also a wave of support. The press and the president's team are thrilled with his determination. He personally visits Sydney and picks her up to escort him to Congress. There, he enters the House chamber to applause, ready to deliver his State of the Union speech already, as a man who has chosen not only politics but also love.